just logged on.
Hey,
Oh my
HQs, I have a work
god! Why are
order.
you so fucking far behind?
Scribes are fucking eating this week, dude. I bought a contract for 20K.
Ew, gross.
I only
We're
paid
down to
9.
8K when I bought mine.
Yeah, mine was only
Oh.
9K.
Damn.
Lord, why?
Probably a server thing.
Yeah,
I
like
guess I'll have to get a real crafter to make my cloak stats since.
All right,
Nature's
calm
a
down
slacker.
now. I'm about to GK you.
does it expire like around rank 5?
I don't even think of. By the time I got my mage back up to exalted, now I'm on a different character. Like I'm just gonna be getting fucking guild rep like forever at this point.
I'm so sad that all the treasures are broken, man.
Yep. So for those of you guys who have been doing the devour mobs, the rare mobs that just spawn and put out like a zone-wide alert, does making a deposit quest actually matter?
I got nothing from it.
I'm about to go turn it in for the 4th time.
I got nothing out of it. I don't know if it's like bugged right now. Or if like maybe it opens up more next week. Which is unfortunate that I turned it in.
Right when I first got my cloak, I put it on and saved it to Windwalker gear set, and then I swapped to my Mistweaver set to put it on, and the cloak was gone, and then it locked me out of my Windwalker sets. It said I was missing a cloak, but it wouldn't even let me click on them or do anything. And the cloak was just gone. Like it was just completely fucking gone. Luckily, I just had to relog. It came back, but I was like, oh no,
I
this
think
is
that
the
happened to
worst
my
bug
husband
ever.
too. He was like, my cloak's gone. I was like, when are you doing, Scott? Where did you put it?
Like, it was just gone. Like it just stopped existing. And then the worst part was it locked me out of all of my Windwalker sets because I had saved it with the cloak. You know how like if you mess up
Yeah.
your gear, it'll show up red, but you can still like equip it and it'll equip everything else except for the missing piece. It wouldn't even let me equip it. Like it was just locked, all of them. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I posted the thing about the alts. Like I like logged in one to get the cloak and did the whole skip thing, and then it just didn't give me a cloak. I'm like, okay, is this busted?
Oh really?
To fly all you gotta fly all the way out to the ethereal
gotta go
dude to
pick it
get
up.
your cloak. It's kind of silly, but it doesn't tell you should, or I guess most people will figure it out. But
Oh, so like
it's
you
one of
do the
those things.
skip and then you just have to fly out and
Yeah, you have to get it from the guy who gave it to you in the story quest.
But it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's just
break
kind of an
nothing,
annoying.
basically. So yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's just kind of like one of those small quality of life things, or that if you like forgot or didn't pay attention, you might be like, "What the fuck
Well,
is
yeah.
going on?"
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good evening.
The Stolen Veil Shard quest is very annoying.
It is literally the worst quest in the game.
Mm-hmm. I've had a couple of the little marmot things stroke out too. They get to their little pile, and then they just like keep
The
jerking
little
off
red
in the
rock
corner.
just dies. I've had the rock just disappear.
I guess technically the new Delve season hasn't started, which is why there's nothing there really to do.
What do you mean?
Like usually there's like the weekly
unlock
quests
level
for delves
11.
and all that shit. Yeah. I mean I can do delves. There's no like weekly quest for cash or keys or anything. Not that I see at least.
I have one to do
Mhm.
3 delves.
Yeah, I have one as well.
Yeah, there's one quest
Is
that
it-
says
Okay. Is it in
the
Tezzaveh?
activity is.
Yeah, it's from Bran, who's in Dornigal.
Maybe you have like an old one, but you have maybe too many old ones in your quest log.
I have none.
I have one from last. I had mine was from last week.
Yeah, I sit on mine.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just a weekly. So whatever weekly you pick.
Yeah.
All my weeklies say reward of weekly activity.
You just gotta do one of those a week.
All right, team. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hopefully everyone's having a good time. Match.
Eh.
Let's get this ball rolling. I'm gonna take some time to go through kind of the rough plan. Just quick TLDR on all the fights, and then also just remember this is PR, right? So things probably will change, but hopefully not a ton gets moved around, etc. Hopefully it's mostly just enemy health tuning and damage tuning, not necessarily mechanics, but we'll play with it as we see it. We'll move forward. So as I go, please feel free to interrupt me whenever. If you have any questions, if you want some clarification, and then I'll like take a second at the end of each boss just to give some time for like some chatter and if people have anything that they want to add, etc. Also, Seb, feel free to jump in if you feel like a tank thing is needed, as well as Anda. If there's like anything healer intensive that you think might need to be touched on, just let me know. We can get that going. Okay, so we go into the first fight of the raid. This is kind of like your standard, you're sneaking in type boss fight. The first thing to notice is it's broken up, like the room itself is broken up into 4 little blocks. You can see here kind of denoted. When we start the fight, there's going to be a wall here that blocks movement through that wall. On the PTR, you could Rescue Wrap through that wall. There's not really a need to do that, but just in case, like tanks, if we decide to do something funky with going through the wall, you can use it to get through. One of the big mechanics with this fight is you need to use your Rescue Wrap's extra action button. That's going to allow you to boost forward like 5 to 10 yards. Makes you immune to all the mechanics as well as like all the damage that's coming out. And that's mainly used to move through a wall that's going to start on this far end. It's going to slowly move its way through the fight. On normal and heroic, that only happens during the intermission. But on mythic, we're going to have to deal with that while we're actually doing each phase encounter. So we'll have to get some practice on that. And then, for the majority of the people, we'll only be using that during intermission, thankfully. So this is a pretty, box standard fight. We're gonna lust on pull, and then there's kind of like a dance that happens in every phase, and he adds the amount. So he adds more abilities each section that he goes into. So we'll start with tanking the boss, kind of over in like this quadrant, and then the tanks will have to move out with a frontal or a debuff cast on them. It's going to drop a really big puddle. This does do fall off damage to the rest of the raid, so we want to make sure that these get out far. So we're going to start fighting the boss kind of over in one corner. On Mythic, we might move a little bit further back, or we might move him to the middle, and then tanks might move to a different spot. But for now, we're going to start it like this. The first thing the boss is going to do is going to debuff 4 or 5, maybe 6 players. It might be based on raid size. with puddles that they have to drop off. So we're going to start with dropping those off on the left side. If you're a range and for whatever reason you're like out here in a bad position, you can always drop off one of your puddles over on this side as long as it's on the edge of the room. I don't necessarily care, but we want to try to favor this side of the room. Immediately after those go out, we get our first tank buster. So the main tank will drop their tank buster as far away from the raid as possible. That means that we want the rest of the raid kind of like tight up close to the boss, just give enough space to where you don't take a ton of damage. Immediately after that, we're going to get an Eradicating Salvo cast. So this is a soak circle that goes on a random DPS player, I believe. It might be heals too, but it's definitely not on the tanks. The person who gets targeted with this needs to bring it into the melee range of the boss. And then this is a 2 soak mechanic. So one team, so we'll split it up half and half. We'll probably do ranged first, melee second. But that's going to be kind of interesting based on our team size. So I might switch around how many people are in each soak. But the way this works is you bring over the soak, drop it off close to the boss. Melee, just make sure you're not in the first set. The person who gets targeted will not get knocked back, but everyone else will get knocked away from this soak's position. I believe it's based around the center of that soak. So just try not to get knocked into anything dangerous. It's only like a 5-10 yard knock, so you should be fine. So first range will get into it. They'll do their soak, and then melee will hop in immediately afterwards. It's like 2-3 seconds in between each knock. So the moment you see the first team get knocked, melee move in, they get knocked, and you can move forward. Movement displacement stuff will work. So if Death Knights can Death Advance and be in both if they want to, etc. But it doesn't do a ton of damage. You just want to make sure to spread it. And then we go to the far side of the room. So we'll kind of move to the center, do that mechanic, and then boss will move over here. And then we do the second set. So we have another set of drop-offs, another set of tank mechanic. Immediately after this tank mechanic drops, the intermission starts. So we might need, if Seb's probably going to be the one to drop this off and transcend its back, we might need like a life grip or a gate or something to help the tanks so that way they don't get knocked into this wall. That's kind of a death wall. We'll see how that plays out when it's live. But immediately going into this phase, a death wall spawns behind us, and the boss is going to push us all back. So you got to run against this pushback. Make sure you don't get pushed too far. And then the boss jumps to the next section and goes immune with a shield. And the goal of this section is to get to him and break the shield before he finishes his cast. It'll do ramping damage as we're in this phase. Let's just kind of run over to him, deal with that. On Mythic, we get a set of ads. These were static spawns on the PTR. We're not necessarily worried about Mythic yet, but just be ready. We might split the raid in half, send half the team one direction, half the team the other. But again, we'll cover that once we get some more Mythic footage, and if we make it to that this week, that'll be great. During this, there is kind of like a gauntlet of dodge stuff. So there's going to be big bubbles that are in the room. These tank puddles did disappear on PTR. They might stay, so that might be something to watch out for. And then there's these like rotating beams that kind of just spin around slowly. You want to do your best to make it all the way through as safe as you can. The Reshi Wraps will take you through any of these points of bad on the ground. So if you see that you need to Reshi Wrap through, you can. But during this intermission, there is a death wall that comes and kind of cleaves the whole raid during this. So it's just going to kind of like span through, right? It'll just move kind of slowly. You need to make sure that you have a charge of Reshi Wraps to get through that as it's moving down this line. On normal and heroic, there's only one of those, so you should only need to use that once. But just keep in mind that you do have a cooldown Reshi Wraps as you go through. Once we get done with the first intermission, so you DPS him down. I don't believe there's a kick or anything. I think he just like starts the second intermission. We do exactly what we did in phase 1. The only difference is he does 2 sets of everything now. So we're gonna do the same thing. We'll dance left, take soaks out, do the big soaks in the middle, dance right, do the same thing over here, and then we'll go like kind of pivot back and forth. Everything should be doubled. Again, this might change on live, but that's how this played out here. And then you go into second intermission, he knocks you back again, goes even further, move through, repeat, do everything. After you do, if we get to a third intermission, it's get to him and kill him or we die. So I don't believe we'll make it to this point, but if we do, it's just a matter of make sure to get to him, kill him before he kills everyone. He's just going to constantly spam cast the wall mechanic that's going to come at you. So if that happens and you have like a wall that you rescue wrap through and there's another one coming, you can always run back. So like say we're all fighting here, you can always run back a little bit, rescue wrap back through, DPS the boss a little bit, and then just kind of repeat that if we need to. But yeah, this fight's pretty simplistic. Any questions?
Intermission's the
mother.
shield, I believe.
Yes.
So it's just when you DPS it down.
Yep. All right. Anyone have anything? This is pretty easy for intro fight. Okay. On to Lumathar. So, this is a 2-phase encounter. Phase 1, the boss is static in the middle. He'll just kind of do his stuff from the middle of the room, and then phase 2, when he reaches 50%, he's gonna break his butt off, fall down, and then we fight him in the rest of this room. In heroic and normal, we can all stack as a raid team. So it'll be tanks kind of take like one pie slice, everyone else kind of loosely stack off to the one side of the tanks. But in Mythic, we're gonna have to loosely spread around the boss. So these big pillars in the edge of the room on Mythic are gonna shoot a laser beam into the boss that people need to intercept and soak. So if we want to practice kind of loosely spreading in these 4 quadrants, that'll not be a bad idea, just to kind of get that muscle memory around. But we don't necessarily need to do that for like the normal kill or whatever. It'll just be something that we'll work on as we progress and do this fight a few more times. But phase 1 has some pretty simplistic mechanics, but they need to be handled kind of in a smart way. So on normal, the boss is going to spawn circles on the edge of the room that are connected with little like web lines, and those are going to slowly move to the center of the room. You cannot jump over these lines or anything. They will stun you and debuff you, so you want to make sure that you don't cross over them unnecessarily ever. The only way you deal with them is each of these balls in the center of those lines can be DPS down. On heroic and mythic, the tank frontal, so the tank gets like a big beam, kind of like the spider robot boss from Shadowlands, and that beam has to hit all of these balls. So on heroic and mythic, these balls are completely immune to damage. You can't even target them. But if the tank hits a ball with their frontal, they become DPSable. So we want to make sure that the tank hits one. The range specifically target this ball as it's coming in. The melee don't necessarily need to swap off unless I call for it. Just because like that should die in the time it makes it in. Once this ball dies, this and both of the connecting lines to it will disappear. So it gives you a window that you can run out of this big ring that's coming in. On Mythic, it's going to be a set of balls. So we'll have kind of one ball here, and then we'll have another ball kind of like spaced off to the side. The tanks need to make sure that we hit both of these balls as they come in. We need to DPS both of them down. but we should have practice on that once we get there. The other mechanic that's going to happen that kind of ties in with this is random players are going to get targeted with kind of like a web line to them. They need to run out of the middle of the room towards this edge. So the moment you cross like this ring, at least this is how it works on testing, is the moment you cross this ring, you will drop a puddle. So you'll snap this web and drop a puddle on the ground. On Heroic, if you're in somebody else's puddle and you snap your puddle, it will, I believe, web you up and debuff you. So you want to make sure that you're always having these all spread out, kind of along the edge. Just do your best not to hit your friends, etc. So it's always going to go in that cadence. So we're going to start in the middle, kind of, DPS the boss down. Tank will get a frontal, hit a ball, range, kill that ball, and then the people targeted need to run out. While that's happening, the rest of the raid team pivot over to the safe spot and just make sure that you don't get hit by these rings that are coming in from the boss. After that, we'll rotate. So it'll probably not be this aggressive, right? We'll probably kill this ball, for example, on the next set, but we're going to rotate clockwise. Tanks will hit the next set of balls. We'll deal with the next set of webs, and it'll kind of repeat that over and over and over. Every time the boss reaches full health or full energy, he's going to do a massive AoE around him. So everyone is going to have to run to this outside edge. This is going to happen at the exact same time that these web people are getting out. So these web people need to make sure after this first set is dropped off that you're dropping these next webs as close as you can to the old webs to give us enough space to where the rest of the raid, as we're running out, have kind of place to move out here in a safe spot. So the raid's always going to run in front of where these webs are dropping. Webs, just make sure that you're dropping them in a smart space. Again, this happens simultaneously. On PTR, it was 2 sets of webs, then an AoE, 2 sets of webs, AoE, kind of repeats that cadence. Once boss reaches 50%, he is gonna, oh, that's the Mythic Mechanic. So again, Mythic Mechanic lines come from the pylons. It starts as 1, then goes to 2, then 3, then 4. We'll probably have teams set up where one person will soak, and then another person will run out around the webs and make sure to pick up the soaks on the edge. On the PTR, mages were able to solo this. Warlocks could use port. Monks can transcend, so we might use some shenanigans to make that a little bit easier. But again, we're not super worried about Mythic yet. Once we make it to sub 50%, the boss is going to break his butt off, fall down, and then we have, again, kind of a dance that we have to deal with. So he's going to take 25% extra damage during this phase, so this is probably Lust Timer, unless they change anything or make, phase 1 tuning just kind of extremely hard for whatever reason. So the moment he spawns, he's going to drop a puddle of purple goop in the middle. Tanks need to move the boss away from the middle of the room. So he's going to kind of always be around this center ring as we move around the room. In this phase, he's going to do a Tank Buster frontal. This time it's a cone. We need to split the raid into 2 teams, and then we're going to have kind of a Cone Soak 1, Cone Soak 2 situation. We're going to do range first, melee second. Again, we have less melee, so we'll play around with that and make sure that the teams are even. Might throw all the healers in the second soak, etc. But as you soak, you will get a debuff that won't allow you to soak the next set on Heroic and Mythic, so we're just going to practice having those teams even when we're on normal. But just remember on normal, if shit hits the fan and you need to soak, you can soak 2 sets. Now, as this happens, the boss is going to do a frontal, and then he's going to drop a goop. Then we move him, and then it's just going to repeat that over and over again. So the way we want to do this is we're going to have the boss, like I said, around this center of the ring for now. All the tank frontals are going to be faced outside of the room, and then we're going to move clockwise. So he will come down, move out, tank frontal first. Immediately after the tank frontal, he's going to knock everyone back, and he's going to drop this puddle underneath his butt. Once the puddle is dropped, once the knock's done, the tanks can move over here, taunt the boss over. So the off tank needs to be prepared in in position to move this boss over the moment that they do the knockback. And then once that happens, boss will move over. We'll do second cone soak, just like this. So this will be the melee team and healers, etc. We'll do this soak, and then that's just rinse repeat all the way around the room. The timer for this boss is just kill him before there's too much goop on the floor, and we win. All right. Any questions with Limithar?
Question on the web stuns. The
Yeah.
penalty for doing that is being stunned. From the video that you linked
Mhm.
yesterday, it looked like you can use potentially human racial to just remove that. So if we have human racial, do you want us using that to maximize space, or are we just not worrying about that?
That might be a mythic thing. If you mess up and need to use it, sure, but I wouldn't worry too much about doing min-maxing, especially on heroic, given that this is like boss 2. I doubt it'll be that tight of a check to need something like that.
Can I add in real quick?
Yeah.
I can't guarantee that I remember this 100% correctly, but I think I saw on the boss that if you chose to human racial it, it did the same thing as happens as One-Armed Bandit, where the puddle just slides out from under the other puddles and just ends up somewhere else. So I don't know if it actually optimizes space.
Oh, well, I never saw anybody do that, so good to know.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and rewatch the video. It didn't look like anything like that happened when he does it in the video that was linked of like all the bosses or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if you misremembering it, but either way, I would
Either
also say it's
way-
probably needless.
Yeah. Either way, do the
Yeah.
mechanic right, and that's not a non-problem. But yeah, I mean, this was a kind of like a tank and spake fight for the most part, so it should be pretty easy to. Anyone else? All right. On to boss 3. So this one gets a little bit more complicated. So this is Soulbinder. Normal and heroic aren't too bad. Normal, he's only going to spawn 6 canisters in the room instead of the 12 that are on heroic and higher. So this movement might be completely different on normal, just for the tanks and the raid to be aware of. So we're planning for heroic. Normal might just be a fuck it YOLO, go to each pair of 2 and then, handle the fight as it happens. But the way this fight works is it's kind of like the egg fight in the Dragon Raid, kind of like Brood the last time around. So the goal is we're going to break out these canisters that are incubating new spirits. When you break out those canisters, you're able to DPS those down. And then any canister that is not broken when you go into the intermission phase is going to spawn ads that come and slap your face. As well as every canister that gets broken does some damage to the raid. So if you break all of them, good chance that you might just wipe the raid by having too much damage go out. So the main goal of P1 is to have the boss break 2 sets of canisters 3 times, so that way you handle half of the canisters that are in the room, and the other half you just kind of have a add cleave situation. So the way we're going to handle this, so the boss starts here on pull. The moment we pull the boss, we're going to move him right in between a set of canisters. This is the movement that we're going to start with. The canisters did have static spawns, and what adds were in those canisters was static. This might change when we min-max going into Mythic. So the pathing might be different, but the theory remains the same. So we'll all move over. Tanks will tank the boss in between the canisters. This movement, Seb and I were talking, doesn't need to be, it doesn't have to be pixel stacked in between these canisters. It can be a little bit off to the side. He can be a little bit further up. I prefer more like towards the center, but he doesn't need to be like perfectly in between these. So just get him close. It's okay if he's not, like on the 1 pixel of the room that we care about. When when we move him over, we're gonna opt for the raid stack strategy. So everyone is going to stack up super tight right next to the boss because of the star mechanic that comes out. So the boss is going to choose random targets. It was 4 on testing, might be more if you have a bigger raid group, might be less, I don't know. But these 4 people get similar to like the Kai'Veza, Princess Kai'Veza mechanic where you shoot balls out in a star pattern from you. This time around, that star pattern seemed to be like correlated with direction of the room. I don't know if they'll rotate or what when we get to the end of it. But these stars, so when they explode, they're going to shoot out a little small ball that moves relatively slowly across the room. On heroic and normal, we just want those balls to not hit the raid. So you want to position yourself in a manner that's not going to cleave any of the people that are in the raid at all during any of these star casts. On Mythic, one of the Mythic changes is one of these star balls needs to hit the canister to allow us to break it. The issue is we can't really practice that on Heroic because the balls on Heroic just pass through the canister and will hit the raid. So it's not something that we can really set up and practice on lower difficulties because it's just going to end up cleaving people unnecessarily. So for now, we're just going to have everyone spread out. You don't have to go super far. Just make sure that you're not cleaving anybody that's stacked up tight here. Once that goes out, then we get these 2 frontals that come from the boss. This does happen kind of simultaneously, like shortly after. These frontals are also going to shoot a ball. So it's not like it's a beam. It spawns 2 balls that move faster. And those balls need to hit the canister. So the people that get targeted with this frontal need to move behind the canister, not in front of it. So melee, if you get targeted, you're not moving here, you're moving here. Okay? You don't need to be like all the way out in the back of the room. You just need to make sure that you're behind the canister to make sure that the ball hits this and not you. That also means melee, especially, be smart. Don't be in between the boss and a canister ever, right? So that's just never, never, never. Always be behind the boss. Tank should have him face this way to make it, melee want to hit the butt anyway. When these balls hit the canisters, they're going to explode. They're going to spawn 2 ads. And we're going to nuke those ads down. They die pretty quickly. At least they did on testing. So just like snap AoE cleave. Boss is still priority here, but these should die before we have anything else come up. So just make sure those get targeted down and make sure those die before the next mechanic. Following this, so add spawn, kill them. If there's mages that spawn, they need an interrupt. So make sure that they get interrupted. The issue with the mages is every time they're interrupted, their cast will become quicker. So it's kind of a kill them before they get unwieldy and start casting like crazy. This also counts for any CC. So if they get gripped, if they get hunted, any of that, they're also going to start casting faster. So we want to try to manage those as best we can. We'll see how that plays out, but they should die relatively quick. The other 2 ads, one of them is just going to bounce around and do damage. The other one is going to target a player. They'll get a AoE circle around them, at least on Mythic. It might be on Heroic. If you get a circle around you when ads are out, just make sure you run out of the group, pop it, and then come back in. Pretty simple. Don't cleave your friends with a debuff around you. Once those ads die on a timer, the boss is going to punt everyone away from him. This is a Mythic only mechanic for the puddle drops, but he's going to punt everyone. Where you land, you will drop a puddle. On normal and heroic, you just get punted. But we want to practice this movement. So we're all going to get punted this direction. So it's based on where you are relative to the boss. We all get punted over here. You drop a puddle. Now, if you're a druid, if you're a hunter, if you're a mage, and you displace at all, so say like you're getting punted, you're in the air here, and you displace here, you will drop a puddle here.
What about glides and hovers?
I believe that
So, like,
works the same way
guide where-
too.
Wherever your
So-
feet
Yes.
Your
sprouts
feet
is where
touch
the
the ground.
puddle is formed.
Correct. So you want to make sure that you just like natty get punted. Don't like it's okay if a circle's out, you know, a little bit far, but we just don't want one like, say, you know, you're in the air and you disengage and a puddle's here. You don't want that. So space management is important for this one. Like I said, that's a mythic only thing. We're just gonna practice it. It'll be fine. But the moment that we do this, then we'll move to the next set of canisters. So move down here, everything repeats. So stars get out, frontals hit the canisters, etc. Get knocked this way. So we're going to have a set of soaks here and another set here. After we get knocked, we're going to move to the center of the room and do these 2 adds. Again, everything repeats on the way it did before. And then we handle those adds. We get punted out. Intermission starts. So all of these are going to break. We're just going to kill them here, wherever we end up landing. Nuke down all the adds, and then we'll move on to the next rotation. So this is kind of a convoluted graph, but this is how we're going to do movement for this whole fight. So we start here, punt. So we do this set of canisters, get punted, move here. This set of canisters, get punted, move here. This set of canisters, get punted, do intermission. Once intermission's over, we go and do the same thing on the opposite side of the room. So we go to this one, punt this way, go to this one, punt this way, middle, punt, kill. And then if we're still alive, boss is still doing his thing, we will then move back to this one and continue the rotation. There is a chance, like I said, that we have to prioritize killing specific canister sets. If that's the case, then we'll set up like a gateway. So if we do this canister, we might gate, you know, across the room and do another set somewhere else. So just keep that in mind. But on normal and heroic, we should have this pretty simply done. Any questions with this one? Okay, on to the harder bosses. So, Forge Master's next. This is a 3-phase fight. So where to lust on this boss is going to be a question. We might lust in the last phase because he pushes into the last phase at a health percentage or at a timer, depending on if you don't get him down far enough. So we're going to start lusting in the last phase. It might be a thing where you just lust first phase because it's harder. We don't really know yet. But the way this fight works is you're managing these pylons that are in the room that spawn over time by the main boss. So there's kind of like a console at the front that the boss will go interact with at points. But he's going to spawn these pylons, and they get spawned in a random order every pull. This is not something where we can always start on this one and then move, etc. So the way that we're going to handle this is kind of in like a multi-phase state. So on pull, tanks are going to go to the boss, melee 2, range, stay middle. And then he's going to choose to activate these pylons, again, in a random order. So it could be red, then blue, then orange. Could be, orange, then blue, etc. We need to keep an eye on when these spawn and know kind of the order generally. That might become important. There was kind of a hit or miss on whether order mattered or if everything happened randomly. So we'll just kind of play that by ear and see what happens. But when the boss spawns a pylon, the first thing that he's going to do is this pylon is going to shoot balls out from it. So it's just kind of like a wave of swirlies that come out from the pylon. Just make sure you soak them. They kind of end, 3/4 of the way through the room. So they're pretty easy to dodge. Just don't be over by a pylon ever. Just kind of stay middle. Now, the main mechanic of this fight is each pylon is going to target, it was 3 players, it might be more, it might be less, 3 targets with a line that connects you to the pylon, and then that line is going to spawn an orb at your feet. So the way this is going to work, people will randomly get chosen. These people need to all stack up. There was no issue with stacking these directly on top of each other and testing. And the way the Mythic mechanic works, I believe they want you to stack these. So don't worry about cleaving people or anything. Even if there's a person under you that doesn't have the debuff, you'll be fine. When these come out, the way we want to play this, so this is to plan for the Mythic way this fight works. So across from each pylon, we're going to set up a marker on the ground. It's going to be the people attached to the pylon's job to move directly across the room from their pylon. So for example, if it's this one, you're going to move to this X marker. If it's this pylon, you're going to move to the circle marker. This pylon, you move to the square marker. You move directly over, you stack up, and then the boss is going to be pivoted over in between where these people are dropping off their orbs and the pylon. The orbs come out, they're fully CCable, so they can be slowed, they can be rooted, knocked, gripped, etc. So we want to make sure that we get these slowed, deal with them, and kill them down pretty quickly. So kind of big, rapid cleave. These didn't have a ton of health, so they were relatively easy to kill. Now, immediately following this first set, again, if timing remains the same, there's a, so these are the balls that come out, kill those. Immediately after this first set, the tank is going to get a tank buster. So this tank buster is a soak circle that needs to be soaked by half of the team. So on Heroic and Mythic, like usual, the soaks have a debuff. So we're going to have half the team in the first set, half the team in the second set. This soak spawns a mirror image of the ad. And whether we kill that mirror image depends on which one it is. So again, if if tuning changes, we might change this plan. But the way we're planning on this is this first image that spawns is going to be nuked down. So the way we're going to handle that, these balls die as this soak comes out. These balls need to be killed ASAP. The moment that this duplicate ad spawns, the boss is going to be drug away by the off tank over here away from this duplicate ad. So this one will look kind of ethereal. It's pretty easy to tell which one's which. But if they ever get within 20 yards of each other, they do way more damage and they receive way less damage. So we need to make sure that they're spread all of the time. Range can cleave. So if you have good 2-target cleave, Destro locks, etc., you can hit both, but we're all nuking this primary ad. So melee, everybody are on this guy. He needs to die ASAP. When these guys are active, they make the other pylons duplicate what they're doing. So they will shoot more of the waves out from them. So they're just kind of tedious and annoying to deal with. But we also can't ever have more than one up at a time. And we get 2 in this first phase. So this guy spawns, completely nuke him from orbit. While that's happening, another set of pylons is going to be activated. So the cadence is going to be, we get one pylon, move to the far side, balls spawn. Tank buster comes out. We deal with the tank buster. Boss moves away. Okay, gets away. We kill the first ad, and then another pylon is going to activate. When that second pylon is activating, we're also going to get the orbs that come down that need to go to the far side of the room for each pylon that's active. So, for example, we would have the red one and the blue one up. We would do a set of orbs at red and a set of orbs at blue. The order that this happens, again, this is where the order matters, was either random or based on the spawn time of the pylons. That was kind of muddled on which one people agreed on was correct. So we're going to plan on it being random. If it's not, we're going to be happy and it'll be easier to deal with. But tanks, once the first ad is dead, tanks, you're going to move the boss around to be in between the balls, just like we were before. And then we're going to get the second tank buster. This second tank buster again gets soaked by the opposite team, so not the first people that soaked. It's going to spawn the ad. This ad gets handled in reverse of how we dealt with the first set. So the boss stays here. I really wish they had different icons, but this boss ad stays middle. The copy ad will get taken way over into nowhere. Okay. So the example that I'm showing here is if we're starting. So if boss the ad soak is on blue, boss will stay middle. This ad will get tanked over here. For the tanks, if we're over here when that happens, you can have the ethereal ad off in this direction, right? He doesn't have to be over by this pylon or over by the control. As long as he's 20 yards away, I don't really care where he's at. Just keep him kind of off in the middle of nowhere. This ad gets passively cleaved. So again, if you're multi-daughters, if you can hit 2 targets, you're going to be actively hitting this guy, but we don't care that he dies super fast. The only thing that we care about this ad is that he dies before we go into intermission. That happens when we've had all 3 pylons active and we've dealt with all 3 sets of balls. Then the boss is going to move up to these controls and deal with the intermission. So this guy just needs to die by then. We might have a point where I'm going to call swap to this ad and make sure he dies ASAP. We just need to be prepared for that in case that ever happens. Any questions with this part? I'll break this up into. It's a lot going. Okay. Then we go into intermission. So the intermission's relatively simple, but it looks kind of difficult to handle. So like I said, the boss is going to move up to these controls. The center of the room is going to become a big swirly energy ball. Do not run into it. You will die. So make sure you never touch the middle of the room during this phase. During this phase, we have to kill all 3 pylons. On heroic and up, these pylons need to die at the exact same time. So we need to make sure that we split DPS and kill all of these. Same thing, multi-daughters, just make sure you're hitting 2 sets of pylons. So again, this is like a really good spread cleave fight. Tanks during this, 2 ads are going to spawn. They seem to truck the tanks, so we'll see how that plays out when things go live. I saw some videos where they were talking about doing taunt swamps on these. I don't know if you'll have to, but the thing you will need to pay attention to is 2 of these pylons are going to get energy full during this intermission. When a pylon reaches full energy, it's going to shoot a beam out from it and try to hit the middle of this room. You need to intercept that beam with the ad, not with yourself, with the ad. The ad will soak that beam and take a little bit extra damage, but keep it from charging this middle. If the middle gets charged, we all take damage, potentially wipe. We want to make sure that gets handled properly. It should go in a cadence where one gets fully charged to energy, then another one does, and then this third one might get close, but we should have them dead by the time that happens. I think that's like the intermission wipe. In the first round of intermission, the pylons are randomly going to choose people to target with beams. Just make sure you don't get hit with those beams. It's pretty obvious to dodge those. So just make sure that you don't get hit. Raid team will be split up. Melee will probably be targeting this back pylon. So we'll start with that. Melee go to this back one. Range, we're going to split right and left. Try to have, Warlocks and Shadow Priests split up, even make sure that you hit 2 ads during the intermission. Once that's done, so we kill all the pylons, the boss is going to come back from the center of the stage and go kind of close to the middle of the room, and then he's going to channel into this central beam that's here, and then he's going to take 100% extra damage for 20 seconds. Or 12 seconds, sorry. So everyone hold CDs, burn the fuck out of this boss when that comes out. The ads that are up also need to die during this time. We're never really focusing on these ads. Like if you off dot them, that's fine. But never focus them down until they're clumped up. We might have to peel some damage off of the boss, but they should just passively die to, melee grinder, etc. Once we get done with that, he does a second round 1, but everything kind of happens faster. And the only difference with this second phase 1 is we only get 1 ad from the tank soak. So the way we'll handle the tank soak with this set is boss will always stay center. The copy ad will always be pulled out and passively cleave him, like we did in the second one in phase. Once we do that, we go into a second intermission. This is exactly the same as the first time. The only difference here is there are balls or like little swirlies on the ground. Make sure that you don't stand in them, don't die. And then we go into the phase 3. So again, if boss ever hits 30% before this happens, he will push into phase 3, or we do the second intermission and he goes into phase. Ideally, what you want to do is have him going into his extra damage phase with a little bit more than 30% health left, and we DPS him through into that, sub 30% as best as we can. Again, that's very nitpicky on damage, but we might be able to pull that off. When phase 3 starts, it's very simple. The boss is going to be moved over to the edge of the room. He is fully movable during this phase, so tanks just keep him in the center along the entrance of the room. The back part where the control is now like a big wall of void. If you touch that, you die. And he's going to slowly suck you up towards the kill box. While that's happening, we get the same balls. There's a different animation for them, but it's the same balls that we saw in P1. So those get spawned under the boss and get passively cleaved. And it's kill boss before he kills you. This suck does progressively get stronger and stronger. So it's just kind of a burn before die situation. All right. Any questions here? All right. Soul Hunters, the quote optional boss that's not optional. So the best way to explain this fight is to explain each boss's abilities first, and then I'll go into how those abilities interact with each other. So first off, it is a 3-target council fight. All of these are always stacked for the majority of the fight, except for the intermission where you have 1 down at a time. So cleave is going to be very good on this fight. Each one of the bosses has a separate health pool. And like the video I posted said, one of them had extra health that might remain, might not. We'll see. But each one has their own set of abilities. So Duskblaze is the projected new Demon Hunter spec, whatever. He does a few abilities. So the first thing he'll do is at the very start of the fight, there's going to be 2 swirlies on Heroic that spawn. Healers are going to get into these swirlies. It gives them a debuff that allows them to soak up the goop that's on the floor that this boss will spawn. And every time he casts Consume, those people are going to get an extra stack that gives them more of a heal absorb that needs to be dispelled eventually. So when you get dispelled, your debuff is going to jump to the next closest person and also do AoE damage to the raid. So we don't want to be dispelling those willy-nilly. We want to wait till they're at a high stack count. We're going to let Anda decide on what stack we want to be transitioning those over to based on how the healing. When you have...
What was the average that they did on PTR?
Like 5 or 6.
5 or 6, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to hit too hard. I saw some people on like normal having 13 stacks.
And it has like a smart thing too, where like even if you dispel somebody, like, and someone quickly dispels, it won't go back to you because it knows that you just had the debuff, right? It has
I
something
believe
built
so.
in.
Yeah, I didn't ever see where it was like really dumb and went back to a person that already had the debuffs on them.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, that's fine. Good question. So, the only thing this boss does other than that, is he's not tanked, so he's just gonna jump around and do his own thing. Every now and then he's gonna jump to the far side of the room, spawn a shitload of circles on the ground, and then also spawn soak puddles. So again, the people that get those consumes on them need to run around and stand in those soak puddles. They will not take damage from them, but they will make them shrink. If these soaks do not get shrunk all the way down, they will slowly grow and kill the raid. So if you have the consume on you, even if you're a DPS, even if you're melee, you go soak at all times. So if you see a soak up, you're going to that soak. DPS does not matter. You're getting out. Ideally, we have the people with the consumes passing this along to mobile range. We'll probably set that up when Mythic comes around. But on normal and heroic, we'll just YOLO it. Sorry if you get chosen, but just do your job. Bloodwrath is the next one. So she's the one that puts the big fire on the arena. And then this one does an I-beam on the tank. It is not static once the cast starts. So if you strafe left or right tanks, it will move with you. So just run against it. It will slowly knock you back. And then it'll leave a debuff on you once it's. So we need a taunt swap shortly after the I-beam goes out. Luckily, the tank mechanics kind of overlap with each other, and then you just taunt swap after. Seems pretty easy, to be honest. The rest of the raid, just make sure you don't get hit by I-beam. This should always be pointed in a direction that makes sense and doesn't cleave people. Immediately after the I-beam, she's going to do a blade dance. It's exactly like the Demon Hunter blade dance. It's just like 3 sets of blaze lines on the ground that get spawned under where the boss is. It doesn't follow you as a player. It's always where she's at. So just make sure that you don't get hit by that. And then she will also cast the hunt. The person who is targeted by the hunt can move where that soak line is, but you cannot move where she's at. So you want to make sure to stretch that line out, and then everyone else gets in that soak to make sure to spread the damage. On heroic, that soak does leave like a little 8-yard around you circle while you're in it, so you cannot stack cleave that. So ideally, it'll be like half the raid that's in that initial hunt soak circle. On Mythic, we're going to have to split up into 3 teams that all soak that differently anyway. But just do your best. It seemed like as long as like 5 people were in the hunt soak, people didn't die. So we should be okay. And then the last boss, this is the other tankable boss. This one does fracture on the active tank. This spawns souls. I spelled souls wrong. Bad. In the direction that the boss is facing. So if you're tanking on the edge, the souls will spawn behind you. So these are 2 little soak circles that spawn behind the tank. This is going to be a melee mechanic. So we're probably going to choose 2 melee to go handle these. It'll probably be Death Knights because you can AMS the application of the debuff. But you'll run out, just run over the soul that's on the ground. If you don't run over the soul, the tank that got fractured will take extra damage. So you'll easily kill your tank if you don't handle this mechanic properly. So just make sure that this is getting done every time the fracture comes out. And then he'll also cast Spirit Bomb. If the souls are left up, they will explode, do big AoE damage, and probably wipe us. So just make sure that mechanic gets handled. Okay, on to how the mechanics kind of play out. Luckily, this fight seems to be nice in that it all happens in a cadence. Hopefully they don't change that because it would really suck if they did. But the way it works, again, immediately as the fight starts, there's going to be 2 purple soak circles in the middle of the room. Healers, just make sure you stand in those to start, and you get that consume debuff. It doesn't do anything to you immediately. You'll just have that little purple ball above your head. Just run around and deal with the soak mechanics as they come out. The first set of things that the bosses are going to do, so they'll do their tank busters. So again, this boss, I have this backwards, but this boss is going to do fracture, and it's going to spawn 2 souls. Kind of at the same time, if not shortly after, the other boss is going to do I-beam. So we want to point the I-beam not directly at where these souls got spawned, if at all possible, because we want our melee running out to collect the souls while this I-beam is happening. 7 days, if that means you need to aim the I-beam this way, that's okay. As long as we're consistent, I don't really care how it gets handled, as long as it's not like, pointed at the middle of the room. So I'm going to let you guys kind of figure that out, and just whatever you choose to do, I'm cool with. Just make sure it's consistent as we do the fight for all the pulls. Immediately after this set of mechanics, they're going to do kind of all of their abilities at once. So the Void boss is going to leap to a random spot on the far side of the room. The direction he leaps is going to spawn circles in a line underneath of him. So kind of like vengeful retreats across platform, Void spawns. While he's jumping, that's where the soak circles are going to go out around the room. Immediately after, if not during this jump, the other boss does Blade Dance. So melee needs to get out. Tanks need to drag this boss to the far side of the room. I have these backwards again. This boss to the far side of the room. And then the other boss is going to get drug across, but she's going to leap wherever she wants to go and cast the hunt. So, and bosses. So this boss is going to jump over here, cast hunt. The person targeted with the hunt, right? So if you started over here, you can run across the room, extend this line, and people need to spread out in this line to soak the hunt. It's like I spoke about before. While this is happening, the people with the consume debuffs are running around making sure all the soak puddles are gone. If stacks get too high, you're just dispelling those periodically throughout the fight. Didn't seem to be a good like dispel here moment, so we'll probably have to play that fluidly. But it's always in this cadence that these bosses do. So, for example, right, we go in, it's going to be tank frontal, boss leaps, dodge the blades. Immediately after that, we get hunt, we deal with hunt, then we do it all over again. So now we're here, we do the same thing. They do that 3 times, and then they go into intermission. The other part of this fight is each intermission has a different boss that's active, and you have to do something different with each one. So the first boss, the Void guy, is going to jump to the middle. He's going to suck everybody into the middle of the room. Don't get sucked underneath the boss. While this is happening, balls will come from the outside of the room, and we need to soak them as they're coming in. These balls will leave a debuff on you. I think it's like a 4 or 5 second debuff. So you need to spread out around the room loosely, so everyone just kind of take a quadrant. And we're soaking these orbs as they come in. And then just make sure that you're not taking like too many stacks as we go. This seems to be a time thing, not a DPS thing. They might change that. We'll see. But once that ends, we go back into phase 1, do it all over again, and then we go to the next intermission, etc. We cannot assign any quadrants or assign people to a location during any of these intermissions, strictly because of the mythic mechanic. I don't want us to get too comfortable with having a set location to go to. On Mythic, 3 people are going to get chained together, and you just kind of have to YOLO deal with each of the mechanics as a unit. So get used to kind of doing what seems necessary. If there's a spot that's open and you see a lot of balls coming in and there's nobody standing there, just do your best to pivot, play smart, make sure this doesn't kill us. Once we do the second round of P1s, we go into second intermission. So this is the Havoc Demon Hunter. She's going to do blaze lines on everybody. So this is Fel Rush. These people that get chosen can move their lines. So say this person's targeted. If they shift this way, this line is going to follow them along the pivot of where it spawns from. This is very similar to every other mechanic that we dealt with blazes up to this point. You move along your line as best you can. Do not move laterally to get out of other people's lines. So say you're here to start, you have this on you, you're moving this way. You do not move this way or this way, right? You always want to be within your same line. This is going to be hectic. This just kind of goes on for 20, 30 seconds of boss jumping around, doing everything. So just stay alive. This is probably going to be a pop cooldowns, maybe healing CVs, and live type situation. But it seems pretty manageable as long as people aren't cleaving all of your friends. Last intermission, this is the Vengeance Demon Hunter. All this one does, jumps to a side of the room, big spell dev on the entire raid, jumps to another side of the room, same thing, jumps to another side of the room. So this one, people with low movement, like the video said, is going to kind of struggle with this. Just kind of stay central if you can. Don't be in the frontal as it comes out. It is a very big cone, so just try not to get hit by that, and live this. If any of the bosses die before the others, they're going to spawn a crystal, and then other bosses are going to go into their intermission simultaneously, and it's kind of a wipe. So we want to make sure they all die together. And then make sure that we're cleaving them even. If we're in the last, intermission and this boss dies, on PTR, the other bosses just kind of fucked off in the sky, and we could cleave them down. It'll probably be something similar. They might have changed that.
Into that phase, because that's gonna be fun as fuck to watch.
Yeah. I don't want to deal with it, but other people can. It'll be fun.
But one thing, Abby, when the crystal comes down, it ramps pulsing damage. It doesn't end them into the triple phase. That's time based.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it does damage. It does 100% more damage on the next tick, 100% on the next tick until the bosses are dead. So
yeah. Basically, they can die shortly around each other, but they should die pretty quick, back to back. All right. Any questions with this one? It seemed pretty hectic, but it should be pretty easy once you get the dance.
With the tether, it's like one main person, they're the alpha, and then there's two people that are connected to them.
Correct.
It's
So
the
there's always
hose.
like an anchor.
It's a
so-
hosers.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if this person is the anchor, you'll have two beams left and right of you. So you'll always have like these two people need to be aware of the person in the center. You kind of need to move as a unit. The range that you could move seemed to be relatively forgiving. It was like 10 yards from each other. So as long as you're in like a general area, you should be fine.
So would you say that, for example, those two healers, would you say that they just take the lead of following the alpha?
Yeah, I would. Again, this won't happen till Mythic, so we'll have time. But yeah, this person will probably be the one in charge. So if you're in center, you're in charge, and you lead where people are going to go. Ideally, what we'll do is if you're chosen as the person in the middle to be the anchor or whatever, those people find a quadrant to get to. Then everyone else kind of loosely spreads around and deals with the rest of the mechanics. Anything else? All right. On to Fractalus. So this is the patchwork fight. This will either be a very nice easy fight, or it's gonna suck. Time will tell, tuning will tell. It is the 6th boss, so it's probably gonna be very unforgiving with the mechanics that it has, given that it has like 6 things that it does. So the way this boss is gonna work is he's static. It's basically Tectus, but instead of a circle, it's just one pie slice. In that pie slice, there are 5 or 6 crystals in the back of the room that are charging into the boss. If those crystals ever make a line that fully gets to the boss, it is a raid wipe. You'll just kind of nuke everyone. So the way you make sure that doesn't happen is through the boss abilities. So the first thing that he's going to do is he shoots out walls at players. So the way this mechanic worked is it'll choose 4 random players with this mechanic. They get an arrow in front of them, and then there's kind of like a line that delineates which lane. And we want to spread out evenly in these lines to make sure that the crystals get evenly spread throughout the room. This will happen twice. So you'll get one set of crystals that drop. You get another set of crystals that drop. During that, a tank will also get crystals to drop. On normal and heroic, you drop 1 crystal. On mythic, it's 3. So what we're gonna do is the far left quadrant is gonna be for tanks only, unless the weak aura is working and tells us otherwise. So this is gonna kind of be play on the fly situation with a weak aura boss. We will see. But the way this works is you drop walls, you drop a second set of walls. As these build up, if you ever get 6 walls in a quadrant, it will make a line to the boss and you die. So we need to make sure that we break these as they get stacked up. The way you do that is the boss is going to target 7 players with a backhand. That backhand is going to knock you backwards into the crystals and shatter the crystals. So for example, if this one has 1 crystal in it, 1 player gets knocked into this crystal, it breaks, but the one behind it will not break, right? If there's 2 people in this lane and they both get knocked into these crystals, it will break both. So it's based on the amount of players that get knocked. The way the math works currently is there's 4 random targets that get selected, a tank, and then 4 random targets, and then 7 backhands. The biggest difference between normal, heroic, and mythic is the crystals that spawn in the room change. So on normal, you only get the crystal nexus. On heroic, you get the brittle, on heroic you get the void infused. Then on mythic, you get the brittle. Each time you hit a crystal, it'll do a raid mechanic. So one of the crystals spawns swirlies all over the room that you have to dodge. The heroic mechanic puts big circles around everyone. They need to spread out. So every time a backhand comes out, the raid's kind of loosely spreading. One thing that we will do is have an open lane that's kind of like the safe zone, hopefully. In that safe zone, if you're a range and you get a big circle around you, you can run all the way back here. You can even run behind these walls if you want to get into a safe spot where you're not cleaving your team with those circles. Melee will have to deal with those at the same time. So the more space that range can give melee, the better. And then the brittle nexus, every time those get broken, the raid gets a bleed. So we can't break too many of those at a time. Again, that's on mythic only, so I'm sure that'll be dealt with once we get. But yeah, so if weak aura boss, or if the weak aura is working, we're just gonna follow what it tells us. So it should say, you have this pie slice to go to. And they had maps that were working. We'll see how much Blizzard wants to crack down on that, or if they even can. But if it's not working, we're gonna have it to where the tanks always get the star lane. And so they're always dropping in this lane, and they're always breaking in this lane. And then the rest of the raids kind of evenly spreading out in the other open lanes. When we get the backhands, we want to make sure that the tank lane gets cleared, and then all the other lanes get hit by at least one of the backhands. And then that'll slowly build up throughout the fight. I will call that out as the fight progresses if the weak aura is not working. Luckily, we do have the liquid weak aura pack already available to us, so we can start out with that from day 1. Shouldn't be too bad. Any questions here? Kind of just a think it's big.
Just be where you can get stuck in the walls if 2 people go to one side when they're making the wall. It happened
Yeah.
to people on PTR. It is comical, but you can get stuck between them, and you will
Yeah, so
die.
say like these two people were both putting walls down and this person was back here with their wall. You'll get knocked back into your wall and then the second wall will come out and pinch you. And it's real bad.
Like
Don't do
you
that.
couldn't like disperse through it. And well, he was a druid, so like I think he was just kind of boned. I don't know if if Monk used your teleport or may just blink out. Like I don't know, but if you don't have a way out, have fun.
Yeah. And if all the crystals get spawned in every lane and you're back here, you will get knocked out of the fight. So never be behind the crystals unless you're dealing with the AoE circle and then you're getting back in. All right. Anyone need anything else on that one? All right. On to Nexus King. So this seems like a very daunting fight. It doesn't seem too bad until the last phase. Mythic is an absolute nightmare, and I don't even want to think about it. But at least for normal and heroic, the fight kind of plays out pretty simply. I'm gonna go through it. There's two methods of doing this fight. Seb and I were talking about how we want to handle it. I don't really care how the tanks handle this to start. We might have to change up and do some shenanigans with immunities, etc., based on the tank combo if we're having issues with it. But the way the fight works is in phase 1, you're fighting the boss himself. He has a dragon buddy that's with him, but the dragon is currently off doing other mechanics during the phase 1. The main ability in this phase is the boss is going to do a set of 4 abilities back to back, and it's going to choose a tank frontal that you want to not be in, a raid soak that you do want to be in, and then a set of those again. The order that happens, again, was hit or miss because of PTR. It probably will become a static thing, but it very well could be that the boss is randomly going to choose between a pool of those 4, and you just have to deal with it. The way the fight works is they really like to do the thing where they give people stacking debuff that you have to clear. So on pull, the boss is going to pulse 3 times, give everyone 3 stacks of a debuff. If that debuff is not cleared by the time you get out of phase 1, it's basically a wipe. So we need to make sure that we deal with that as we go. The way you remove those stacks is by taking this AoE soak that gets put on the tanks. Every time you get hit by that, you remove 1 stack. There is 3 sets of these combos per phase 1. And he pushes out of phase 1 based on whether or not he reaches, I think it's 50% energy or 50% health, or if he does it 3 times. So ideally, we don't have to hold DPS. We can just DPS the boss down, and then everyone drops their stacks, and we're happy. On heroic, you get a debuff just like before, where you have to split the raid into 2 parties. On PTR, this was where like you could just take 2 back to back and you live it. Might be a thing where we do that with healing CDs. I highly doubt it. We'll probably not have the DPS at least at the start of the tier to do the need to do that. We'll probably get all 3 sets, but be prepared for that anyway. But when this comes out, just so the tanks know, they were dealing with this mechanic by either cheesing it with a prop paladin, or a lot of defensives where 1 tank would take the first 3 of the abilities, no matter what they were. So if it was tank soak, clone, or cone, tank soak, they would do 3 of them no matter what. I think that's kind of unnecessary, especially on heroic. It might become a thing on mythic, so it's worth at least keeping in the back of your mind. But we can probably split this up smartly where you just take 2 sets and make sure you don't take multiple. It does happen really fast, so We'll just need to make sure that that gets handled properly. This is a mechanic that sucks for the tanks to deal with, so I need everyone to be patient and let them figure it out. It's kind of all on them to get it right, so don't be mean. Let them have their time to figure it out. If they need to test stuff as we're doing this, that's fine. I'd rather it get figured out sooner than later. So if we have to do some shenanigans, see if something works or not, I'm all for it. So just keep that in mind as we're learning this. On Heroic, this cone was kind of nice. On Mythic, it's like absolutely massive. So like the cones are like this big for some reason. I don't know why, but they are. So just keep that in mind too. The other thing this boss is going to do during this phase. So the dragon's also going to be doing mechanics while he's out. So he's going to replicate himself 12 times. I know there's not 12 dragons, but he's going to replicate around the room. If you ever get close, so if you like get over here, he's going to swipe at you and do damage. So you never want to be on the very edge of the room ever, as we're in phase 1. He's going to put out claw lines on targets. So if you get a line on you, you just want to run out, get it as far out as you can, and drop them. It's kind of like blaze lines, except for they leave puddles on the ground in the shape of a claw. These persist until at least the next set goes out, and then they'll disappear. So we want to conserve as much space as we can. Get these as far out to the edge of the room as you possibly can. They come out pretty quick, and they don't have a lot of time for you to run out. So just make sure you get them out, but also get them out in a safe manner. Don't run into the dragons and die, etc. While this is happening too, the dragons on the edge of the room are going to choose a target to shoot a ball at, and the ball is going to travel across the room. These balls were very fast on testing. I don't know if they'll remain that way, but it's always on a targeted player. And it seemed to start on one end of the room and kind of bounce around, like kind of in like a clockwise way. So it'll start here and rotate left and right until it gets to the far end. Again, that might change, but we'll just need to make sure that we're dodging these balls as they come through the raid. That will happen while we're doing these frontals, the cone soaks, or the circle soaks and the cone dodges, as well as these claws going out of the room. So just pay attention. Don't run into a ball as you're running out with any of your abilities or if you're soaking. Head on a swivel in this phase basically is the name of the game. Again, you do this 3 times and then the boss phases. Oh, the other thing in this fight, so the boss is going to choose random people with banishment. If you get that, you need to run out of the raid. You pulse AoE around you in about 8 to 10 yards. You'll kill people if you stand in, so you need to make sure you get out. Just kind of sit out on the edge. I'm hoping this is not a melee mechanic, but it very well could be something that melee can get targeted with. So if that's the thing, you just run out, and sit down, and wait for the debuff to go away. Once that's done, you get back into the group. Okay, when the boss gets to 50% health, the dragon's going to come down, and we'll start phase 2. The way this functioned on PTR was kind of funky. I don't know if they'll leave it in this order. So we'll see when it's live, but it was basically P2 is like interrupted midway through into the intermission. It was not health based, it seemed, and it was like more time based. Again, we'll see what happens, but dragon comes down, does a knock. Just make sure that you don't get knocked too far or get knocked into any of the claw lines around the room. Once the dragon's in, you no longer have to deal with the fact that there's dragons on the edge that'll swipe at you. So you can get all the way to the edge if you want, but it is death out there, so don't off. During this phase, we also get the claw lines, and people will get targeted with a very large circle around them. If you get that, you're just running out to the very edge of the room, dropping off your circle, and then getting back. Pretty standard mechanic to deal with. The other thing he's gonna do, so the dragon is going to hit a tank with a big frontal. If the tank moves, frontal will move with him. So just make sure that you point it away from the team and plant. During this, there's little like circle crystals or portals that spawn around the edge of the room, and those are gonna replicate the beams. And these beams seem to just like rotate really fast randomly, and it didn't seem to matter what direction they were going or any rhyme or reason. So this is going to be keep your head on the swivel and dodge the beams if they're going to hit you. Hopefully that's more telegraphed and in like a normal order in the room, but we'll see. I'm assuming they were testing that just to kind of see what happens with it. On Mythic, there's like 8 of them, and they seem to have a pattern, but they also just like nuked everyone from orbit. If anyone's seen the Mythic testing of this fight, it was absolutely hilarious. Basically, like the whole platform is just covered in beams, and everyone died, like immediately. So I'm sure that's gonna get changed somehow. But basically, immediately after this beam goes out, the boss is gonna transition into intermission. So we're gonna have the team, kind of the same teams that were split up for the debuff soaks. They're gonna go left and right on the platform. There's a little portal on each side. Those portals have a little circle in front of them. You step in the circle, use your Rescue Wrap extra action button, and it's gonna zerp you over to the sides. So if you look at the full map, there's 2 little platforms on each side. You'll spread out and go to each one. On those platforms, so on these platforms, you're going to have ads to deal with. There's one big named ad on each platform. They need to die ASAP. They also are going to be kicked. So just make sure that those don't go through. There's also little ads in the room that are going to do things. Circles are going to come out on the floor, as well as beams that are going to rotate from some of the ads. Just make sure that you don't die to any of the mechanics here. On testing, these had like no health, so they just got nuked. I'm assuming this is going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with, kind of like what Razageth was like with a dance. I'm sure this will kind of have like a telegraphed thing that you deal with, but it was kind of random from testing. Once you deal with all of the ads, they're all dead. You can take the rift back, so you go back over, use your extra action button, and go back to the main platform. I'm assuming you're going to want to kill these all at the same time, and then get back at the same time. Once you're back, the boss kind of was acting weird on testing, so he just kind of stood around for 30 seconds and then did another round of phase 2. So it'll do another set of beams, another set of big circles to get out of the center with, and another set of swipes. Once that happens, you get an intermission 2. During this intermission, the boss is going to leap away and becomes immune. And then the dragon gets a damage amp. And you're basically nuking this dragon down. On testing, you couldn't kill the dragon. The boss would just eat up his soul once you killed him. He gets more health back, and then you go into the last phase of the fight. The boss is basically just going to stand there, do lines that you have to dodge as he's in the mission, and then you eventually push him. For the last part of this fight, I'm just going to show people in animation what happens, because it's very hard to explain. So when we're in this intermission, boss is pulsing, he's channeling into it. We all just kind of stand here, do things. And then when you push him, so again, eventually he sucks the boss off, gets to 50% health. This phase is all the same thing, just on repeat. So people are going to get these swirlies around them, and then they have to run to the outside ring of the room. So if you see those, like this big ring on the edge, I want people to run out to these far edges of the room. And what happens is when you drop these off, they're gonna spawn these like sea urchin looking star things that come out. One thing I want people to note is if you look, the dark purple people, these are spinning in a clockwise fashion. The light purple are spinning counterclockwise. That's going to indicate that the direction of the sea urchins move in the room. That potentially could be important on Mythic. On Heroic, it doesn't seem to matter. But on Mythic, if the fight works as it seems, if those stars ever touch each other, then you die. They'll explode. So keep that in mind. These all kind of have like a direction that they're going to move. But these are going to go pairs of 3s. They spawn, and then they drop these suck puddles, very similar to Nexus Priestess, Eveza. So you're all going to get sucked. Again, it's equal to the spacing in the room. So you want these spread out evenly around. They all get sucked, and then they start moving. So they're going to move in the direction that they were spinning, like I said, and they're going to spawn these sea urchins. So they have lines around them, so big rings. Those rings will explode with spikes, and then they get a little bigger. They explode with spikes, get a little bigger, and they just keep doing this. So this looks like a nightmare. You just kind of dodge everything. If you get all of them on the very edge of the room, it seems to be easier to manage. And also on testing, these lines were very accurate to the mechanic. So if you're in a spot where you have to stand like really tight, like right here, like this little tiny area, you can, and you won't die to it. Now, if you see, while this is going on, these ads here, like are duplicating from the boss, and they're putting lines towards people. Those lines need to get aimed at a sea urchin, and you don't have to like be behind it. It just needs to be in the direction that you're facing. If a sea urchin gets hit by it, they disappear. So if you watch, the spikes come out, the sea urchin disappears. So the goal is, in this phase, you do that round. He's going to do another set of spikes. Those spikes kill the other sea urchins. And then you just do this on repeat. So it's just this phase over and over and over again. More sea urchins come out. Another suck. And this is just basically kill boss before he kills you. This will probably be the last phase that we do for. Any questions with that one? Kind of a crazy mechanic.
Yeah, that's the only fight that I'm like, yeah, that might be. I need to see it.
Yeah, this one's there's a lot going on. I would suggest watching a few POVs on Heroic, just to get an idea. But yeah, I think this is gonna be everyone needs to see it. But yeah, we might have another Tindril fight on our hands, which is gonna really suck, but we'll see. All right, so that's the 7th boss. For Dimensius, obviously there's been no testing. We may not even make it to him this week, but I do want to go over some basic ideas on what the boss might do. There's a few guides out there that kind of goes through like potential, what we might see, etc. This boss has a few interesting mechanics. So he's huge. He's in the middle of the room. We're kind of on like this U-shaped platform to start. He's in his largest phase or largest form when we first start fighting him. The main mechanic that he has is if you ever touch him, you immediately die. You get consumed into the void and disappear forever. And he has a mechanic called gravity. So he's going to build up his internal gravity every time he tries to suck people off of the platform. And we need to do things during the fight to get us more personal gravity to keep us from getting sucked off of the platform. It makes sense as you kind of go through the mechanics. But basically, what the boss is going to do is we'll probably have, if it's static spawns, we'll have people kind of split up into two groups. But the tanks are going to get hit with an ability called Massive Smash. So the tanks will probably be split up. These are going to spawn ads, so little living mass ads that come out. Those get nuked down, so these need to die ASAP. When they die, they drop what's called excess mass. So people need to pick up that excess mass. So this is going to be mobile players. So BM hunters, be ready. Mages probably, etc. So what's going to happen is if you're next to somebody within 8 yards of somebody else who also has excess mass, they create what's called a gravity field. And the more people that you have next to you, it makes more of a field of gravity. So if you have 2 people, it's a very small gravity field. But you need more stacks of this gravity field than what the boss has for stacks to suck you off the platform. So it'll probably
Just
start with
universal
like,
gravity.
yeah.
Sorry.
So he'll probably start with 1. We have to get 2, and then each time, we add more and more. The more gravitational field stacks we have, the slower we are. So it'll probably be a thing where the people that get these buffs from the ads want to stay separated from each other, so that way they're not slowing each other. But then once we need to stack for the big suck, they all get close to each other and we panic. There are mechanics in this fight that kind of split the room off. So this might be happening in like 2 separate teams on each side of the platform. It could be we stay together. Kind of hard to tell without testing, so we're just gonna leave that open-ended. He's gonna reverse gravity on people, and they get launched in the air, and then they get like sucked into the boss. The people that have this excess gravity or excess mass on them need to go stand under the people that are getting sucked away, and it'll pull them back down to the platform. If they
I'm
get
gonna be
hit
honest,
by
I'm-
this, what?
Sorry, I didn't mean to press my button.
Oh. If they get hit by this twice, they'll just get immediately sucked into the boss and die. So we need to manage that. Just make sure people get under the dudes. Keep them on. So the boss is gonna smash the platform with his right and left hand. Crystals of antimatter are gonna spawn. And you need to soak them. So after 10 seconds, these explode. And the explosion damage that they have will just one-shot the raid. If you stand next to the crystal, so you don't have to be like in a soak or anything if you're just next to it, you're going to decrease the amount of damage that each one of these antimatters do, but it'll also do a stacking debuff on you. So we'll probably have to split the team, have a couple people go in and just make sure that they're soaking up. While that's happening, swirlies are going to spawn around the room. Just make sure that you don't get hit with that. And then the boss is going to hit everyone with dark matter. It's probably gonna be like everyone gets a little circle around them. We spread out. We drop a puddle. And then the puddles getting dropped block off part of the room, and that's probably gonna be the enrage. If you run out of space, you die. But yeah, so that's phase 1. Phase 2. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is the devours the big. He sucks you into panic. The first intermission is a dragon flying intermission, so it's probably similar to Tindril. You go up in the air. There's things that you can soak that let you get a buff that let you hit the ads in the intermission for 5 to 7% of their health. So you want to collect as many of those as you can and make sure you slam into them when you land. when we land, there's gonna be 2 planets that we're on. We might split the raid. We might stay in like one big group and go to one then the other. But it's basically a big boss that we fight. We kill this big boss, and then little ads are gonna also spawn. We kill those. There's potentially gonna be like a line of ads that move across the room, kind of like Painsmith. You kill one of them, and then gives you a space to run through. One of the big ads is gonna have a frontal. The other one is going to do a big Nova that is very melee unfriendly. So it looks like you'll have a melee side and a range side that people will spread off to. We'll see. And then during this, tanks get a stacking debuff on them. If they ever reach 15, then they die. So that's probably like the burn these ads before they kill you part of the fight. Might be a less time, might not. It's all speculation at this point. Once you get done with that, you go into P3. It's a big circle room. This doesn't that very. So the intermission is just going to be like these star platforms that we fight on. And then the last one, we're going to fight in the heart. This looks like a smaller room than before. So he's going to be in the middle, and we fight him. He's going to do the sausage mechanic where big waves are going to come out. If you get hit by one, you get a debuff for 5 or 6 seconds. If you get hit by another, it'll probably kill you. So we're going to have to make sure that we move around the room away from the waves. He's also going to have a Razageth mechanic where the edge of the room is going to slowly shrink in. So we're going to, it's kind of like a softened rage timer where you kill the boss before you run out of space to do anything. Leaps, blinks, ports, all of that are going to be very nice for this mechanic in the last phase. So there's a lot of speculation on comp that we'll see for that. The Tank Buster also, it's kind of worded funky. It either sucks everyone who is within 20 yard range to them, or it sucks everybody 20 yards closer to the tank. During this phase, the boss has the same, like if you touch him, you die. So that might be kind of an annoying mechanic to deal with. So we'll see how that goes. And then missing anything? Oh yeah, there's 8 stars around the room that are kind of like gonna rotate around. If you're next to it, it gives you gravity. The boss is gonna do a devour. You need to stand next to a star to make sure that you don't get sucked into the middle. If 6 players ever get close to it, it collapses into a black hole and then sucks you into it. So you need to make sure that we spread out as a raid into different stars. We might have that set up to where like certain people go to certain markers around the room. We'll see. Yeah. Mythic, the boss eats the stars as we go through. And I think that's it. Yeah. That's it. So again, this is all speculation. We'll probably have a kill video before we even get to this boss. I will be watching and posting those as I see them. If I find one that I like, share. But yeah, this fight looks pretty fun. Doesn't look super gnarly mechanic wise, but I'm sure it'll be kind of crazy once we get into it. But fun.
Is there any speculation on to like the length of it?
No.
Like time?
Seems
I
long.
haven't
heard. Yeah, it seems like a long fight. I haven't heard anything from anybody.
At one point, that super boring video that we watched the other day, he said that going into phase 3 was like 6 minutes ish, I think.
Okay.
It's not that bad.
All right. Well, I appreciate you all coming to my TED Talk. we're gonna open up the channels where all of these raid plans are in now, as well as like a couple kill videos that I think are relevant and nice to have for PTR stuff. The moment that we get like live kill videos, I'll be replacing those, as well as like potential strategies. But yeah, like the whole goal of this is that everyone has now an idea on what we're planning on doing. I might do a quick like TLDR, remember these mechanics before we pull. But I expect everyone to know all of the mechanics. I understand that you haven't done them yourself, so you know a lot of people learn by doing. So as long as you understand what you should be doing with those mechanics, keep that in mind. We'll probably lock the channels to not have people be able to type in them to start. If you have a video or if you have a weak aura or if there's anything that you think is relevant that could be added to those channels, you can reach out to any officer. Me is probably your best bet. And I can kind of post things in there that I think are relevant. I just don't like it's kind of hard, especially at the start when we have multiple people in there talking, and it gets a little confusing. So we'll filter that to start. We'll probably open up some chat channels as we move on, especially for the later bosses. Any questions about that?
Sounds good.
I got nothing.
All right.
I'm horny.
Well, thank you, everyone. I know that's a lot of information for like 2 hours, but hopefully that gives people an idea on the fights at least.
And you record this, so like if we want to like put a kill video up next to this with the raid plans that you put together, we can like do that, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm streaming on YouTube right now, and I posted that stream, and then that'll be recorded and put on there indefinitely, so you can always come back and watch.
Hey, Abby.
Yeah.
Can you repeat everything you said over the last 2 hours?
Fuck off.
He can.
I don't think you said that before. Were you repeating that, or was that an interjection?
No, that was just what I said the entire time.
Actual question though, Abby.
Yes.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
Yes, especially with your rushy reps. So
Fuck.
Make sure you use it.
Holy shit, he made it relevant. Fucking bait.
I did.
Yeah, about 45 minutes ago, you breathed a little funny into the mic, and so I'll put that in your feedback channel.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My throat is so dry. I'm not used to talking this much, like straight. Kind of sucks.
Well,